Today, we're going to demystify the differences between property tax and real estate tax. These terms are often used interchangeably, but there are important distinctions you should understand. I'll break down what each tax entails, how they work, and why it matters to you. Let's keep it straightforward and clear. So by the end, you'll have a solid grasp of what you really need to know. When we talk about property taxes, it's important to understand the distinction between taxes on ownership and taxes tied directly to the real estate itself. People often use these terms interchangeably, but they're not exactly the same. So, are they the same thing? Not quite. They're related. But the difference really matters when you're dealing with tax implications depending on whether you own the property or you're focusing just on the property itself. Understanding this subtle difference helps clarify how taxes apply in different situations. Here, we're clarifying the distinction between real estate tax and property tax. Real estate tax is a broader category. It includes taxes related to owning, transferring, or engaging in transactions involving real property. Real property refers to land and any buildings or structures attached to it. Within this larger umbrella of real estate tax, property tax is typically just one component, generally focusing on the ownership aspect. So, while all property taxes fall under real estate taxes, not all real estate taxes are property taxes. This understanding is crucial as we navigate the complexities of taxation in real estate. Property tax is a key concept when it comes to real estate. It's an annual tax that you pay every year based on the assessed value of your property. This means the local government evaluates how much your property is worth, and the tax you owe is directly tied to that value. Property tax is a crucial source of funding for local governments and public schools. It plays an ongoing role in property ownership costs, making a core component for anyone who owns real estate to understand and budget for. When we talk about real estate tax, it's important to understand that it covers more than just property tax. Think of real estate tax as a broader bucket. This bucket includes various types of taxes that can apply to different real estate events, such as property purchases, ownership, transfers, and leases. On the other hand, property tax is more specific. It's typically an annual tax based on the taxable value of the real property itself. That means the land and any structures on it. The amount is usually calculated based on the assessed value of both the land and the building. So, while property tax is focused on the value of the property you own, real estate tax includes a wider range of taxes connected to real estate activities. Essentially, they exist in the same real estate world, but cover different scopes. Understanding this distinction helps clarify why the term real estate tax can refer to various charges beyond just the property tax bill you receive each year. When we talk about who collects real estate taxes, it's important to understand that different entities handle different parts of the process. Real estate tax collectors are often connected to the transaction side of a deal. This means agencies or parties that are responsible for recording, assessing, or closing your real estate transaction generally manage these charges. On a broader level, state or federal entities may collect transfer or recording-related taxes. For example, title companies usually collect these taxes during the closing and then remit them accordingly. County assessors play a role by assessing property values, which are then used to determine real estate tax amounts. Property tax collectors operate closer to home. Property taxes are typically local and are used to fund everyday services in the community where the property is located. Local municipalities, like cities or towns, often handle billing and collecting these taxes directly. School districts also receive a significant portion of property taxes, which help support public education. County governments commonly oversee billing collections and maintain local tax rolls. So, it's helpful to remember that while real estate taxes can play a part in the closing process, ongoing property taxes are local bills you'll encounter regularly. This system ensures that the community benefits from the funds generated by property ownership. Tax rates in real estate might seem similar at first glance, but they're actually calculated in quite different ways. First, real estate taxes tied to the sale are typically transaction-based, meaning they're calculated when the property changes hands. On the other hand, property taxes are based on a home's assessed value and are recurring, often paid annually. In the U.S., the typical ranges for these rates vary depending on state and local regulations. Real estate tax rates usually fall between about 0.5% and 3% and are often seen in transfer taxes, stamp duties, or recording fees that apply during the sale. These are calculated directly from the sale price or a fixed amount related to the transfer, so you pay them one time at purchase or transfer. Property tax rates, meanwhile, generally range from roughly 0.5% to 2.5%, although local effective rates can be higher or lower. These are based on the property's assessed value, which is determined by local appraisal rules, and are multiplied by a millage rate or tax rate specific to the area. Property taxes are ongoing costs, usually paid annually or semi-annually, as long as you own the property. So, in summary, real estate taxes are transaction-based and paid once when you buy or sell, while property taxes are based on assessed value and recur regularly as an ownership expense. Understanding this difference is key when managing the costs associated with buying and owning real estate. When we talk about closing costs, it's important to realize these go beyond just your regular yearly bills. These costs usually come into play when a property changes hands, and they are typically one-time fees rather than recurring expenses. One key component is a transfer tax, which is essentially a fee charged when ownership of property is transferred from one party to another. Then there's a stamp duty, which is levied on legal documents or directly on the sale of the property itself. In some areas, especially with certain new builds, you might also encounter a sales tax on the property sale. All of these are part of the closing costs and happen at the point of sale, not every year. So it's crucial to factor them in when buying or selling real estate. Property tax is an annual cost that comes with owning property. It's assessed every year and is used to fund important local services in your community, like schools, roads, and police. The amount you pay is usually based on the assessed value of your home or building. So, the higher the assessed value, the higher your annual property tax bill will likely be. This tax is a yearly expense tied directly to the value of your property, making it an important cost for owners to keep in mind. Let's walk through how property tax is actually calculated. It's a step-by-step process that starts with property appraisal. An assessor estimates the home's market value by looking at recent sales, the location, size, condition, and any improvements. From there, the assessor doesn't just use the market value directly. Instead, they calculate an assessed value, which may be lower than the market value because the taxing authority applies an assessment ratio or local rules. Finally, the local tax rate is applied to that assessed value to determine the annual property tax amount you owe. So, it's a gradual movement from market value to assessed value, and then to your tax bill, not all at once. Here, we're looking at the key differences between real estate tax and property tax, which often get confused but actually serve different purposes. Starting with timing, real estate tax is usually paid during a sale or transfer of property, while property tax is an ongoing expense paid every year by the property owner. The purpose of real estate tax is to cover taxes tied specifically to real estate transactions, like transfer taxes, whereas property tax funds local services, such as schools, public safety, and infrastructure, supporting the community in which the property is located. When it comes to who collects these taxes, real estate tax is often managed by state or local governments, but property tax is usually collected by county or municipal offices. As for who pays, real estate tax can be paid by the buyer, seller, or sometimes both at the closing of the transaction, but property tax responsibility lies with the current owner of the property. In short, real estate tax is broader and transaction-based, making it somewhat easier to split between parties, while property tax is a recurring obligation tied directly to ownership, which is not quite as straightforward to divide. Understanding these distinctions helps clarify when and why each tax applies. When you buy a home, there are a couple of key tax-related moments to keep in mind. First, at closing, the day you officially become the owner, you might have to pay a real estate transfer tax. This is a one-time fee connected directly to the purchase of property. Then, after you move in and settle in, you'll start paying property taxes annually. These ongoing taxes are based on the home's assessed value and continue every year as long as you own the property. So while both types of taxes are linked to buying a home, they occur at different times and serve different purposes. Understanding this helps you plan for both the immediate costs at closing and the recurring expenses down the line. When considering your budget for real estate, it's important to think about both the initial purchase costs and the ongoing expenses that will rise in the years after. Some costs impact your closing cash directly. These are usually one-time transaction costs like real estate taxes when you buy, sell, or transfer a property. Planning for these upfront is crucial because they affect your deal cash flow and investor closing calculations. On the other hand, property taxes are a recurring expense you'll face every year as a property owner. These should be factored into your monthly housing costs, often handled through escrow, and kept in mind when estimating your long-term returns. This ongoing tax is a key component that continues to influence your budget well after closing. Understanding this distinction helps ensure that your financial planning aligns with the realities of property ownership. Now, let's talk about exemptions and deductions related to property taxes, which can provide some much-needed relief for homeowners. One common exemption is the homestead exemption, which lowers the taxable value on your primary residence, helping to reduce the amount of property tax you owe. There are also exemptions for seniors or individuals with disabilities, often leading to a significant reduction in their property tax bills. For agricultural land, taxation may be based on a lower use value rather than full market value, reflecting its specific use and providing some relief to landowners in that category. When it comes to deductions, real estate taxes may be deductible on your federal tax return if you itemize deductions, but this is subject to IRS rules and limitations, particularly the SALT or state and local tax cap. This deduction typically applies only to eligible state and local real estate taxes, and it's important to note that personal charges or services related to property taxes do not qualify for a deduction. Finally, keep in mind that the amount you can deduct on your federal return may be capped due to SALT rules, so understanding these details can help you maximize your tax benefits effectively. To wrap things up, it's important to understand that property tax and real estate tax are related concepts, but they're not exactly the same. Property tax refers specifically to the recurring annual tax levied on the assessed value of a property. It's something property owners pay every year based on how much their property is worth. On the other hand, real estate tax is a broader term. It includes property tax, but also covers other types of taxes tied to real estate, like transaction taxes when you buy or sell property. So, while all property taxes fall under the umbrella of real estate taxes encompass more than just the annual property tax itself. This distinction helps clarify how different taxes affect real estate owners in various ways.